Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Once a week I do an update video, and that's what this is. So there's a lot of topics in this. So it's not me talking about one specific thing, it's talking about multiple things. And I try to make them all interesting, and they're all related to things that are going on either with me or the shop. And there's a lot of race stuff going on. But I want to start by saying this, and this is a little story, I got to admit, and it's not related to racing at all. I almost landed my dream job. I mean, almost got it. Oh man. So I got to tell you this, I was so excited and I almost got it and I failed. So here's what's going on. I'm in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and they're filming a movie here. And this movie is with Ron Perlman and a couple other ladies that I've seen their faces, but I can't remember their names. Anyway, they're filming a movie here. And anyway, I applied to be an extra. And not because I want to be in a movie, because if I really think about it, I probably have more people watching my videos here on YouTube than some of the movies that get put out. And you're like, no, that sounds really arrogant. Now, when you look at the analytics over the year, there really is probably more people that have watched the videos than we watch some movies. But anyway, so I'm not really trying to be for that, but I wanted to just add it to my bucket list. You know, I got to be an extra in a movie, and that sounds really cool. It was also a horror, but then they said horror comedy, and I was like, ugh. But Ron Perlman's cool. You know, if you guys remember, he was in Hellboy. If you ever watched 1,000 Ways to Die on Spike Television, he was the voiceover for that. So huge fan. Anyway, I applied to be an extra, and so they got back to me, because the way it works is there's multiple steps, evidently. But because I'd applied for an extra just so go further off topic a little bit here. When I was in high school, they filmed the movie Twister with Bill Pullman and Helen Hunt, and they filmed that around the Enid area, which is where I grew up for high school. So I actually applied to be an extra for that, but I was like 17. And of course, everybody and their dog applied for that, and of course, I didn't get that. But that movie ended up being really, really good. This newer version sucks. But anyway, so when you put in for your application, they ask for all your measurements and stuff and ask your body type. And I was like, I don't know how to even put my body type. So I put muscular, which I don't really think I'm that muscular. But then there's like fat or athletic. And I'm like, where's the dad bod? I would have accepted that one. But anyway, you put in that stuff, and then it asks you, then it will hit you back with, it'll text you back and it'll say, here are the scenes we're looking for extras. Would you be willing to do this? And so it hits me back, and the very first one is the dream job. So you got to bear with me as I say this, because I was like, oh my God, I've made it. This is the one. I've been waiting my whole life for some opportunity like this to come up. This is it. And what it is, it's an extra at a strip joint. That's it. And I know you're like, what are you talking about? You know, there must be filming a scene at some strip joint, and they just need people to pretend to be customers at a strip joint. And I was like, oh yes. I haven't been in a strip joint since I was in my 20s in college. So it's been a long time ago, right? So I was like, but this is like the dream job, because they're going to pay you, and the pay is crap. It was like $68 for 8 hours. I told my son that. I was like, Dad, that's really bad. It's like, I don't care. Do you not understand? They're paying you to pretend to be a customer at a strip joint. I don't know if any male that's ever been paid to be at a strip joint where they didn't have to take off their clothes. This is a dream come true. I've made it in life. This is it. And so I was so excited about this thing. And then they hit you up with other ones too. So the next one was an after party. The scene was like you're supposed to be at an after party. And that one may still happen, because I think it's later on that they're doing that one. But then the very next one, and by the way, you enter your picture for your face and stuff. The very next one they sent was lonely man smoking a cigarette. So somehow they looked at my picture and said, that guy is the guy we need to play, a lonely man smoking a cigarette. I actually turned that one down, because I have never smoked a cigarette in my life, except parenting was weird in the 80s. My parents both smoked, and their idea to prevent us from ever smoking was when we were like 6. They're like, here, take a smoke. Smoke this. And of course, the idea was that it would ruin you and you would never do that. Well, there were 3 of us siblings. I'm the only one that didn't ever take up smoking. So I have never smoked a cigarette since that point. and you have to be comfortable smoking an herbal cigarette, whatever that is. And I just couldn't do that because I was like, I cannot pull that off at all. There's just no way. And I'm not going to take up smoking just so I can hopefully get this extra roll. So I turned that one down. So it's kind of let down. I'm going to pause for a second. My son's calling me. So anyway, besides that smoking one, I really wanted the strip joint. Oh, they had another one that it already happened on Thursday, and I didn't get that one either. It was just to be a person that's walking around like a Comic-Con type of thing, which I have done that. Because where they're actually filming, it's a hotel, and there has been a Comic-Con there. And when my son was young, we actually went to that, and I got to meet Lou Ferrigno. For those that don't know, he's the original Hulk. So that was really cool. It was nice talking to him and everything like that. He was super nice, great guy to deal with. So I was like, maybe they'll pick me up for that. Clearly they didn't pick me for that. I don't know. I probably didn't fit that look. Anyway, so I'm like, the first step is they just asked you if you'd be willing. So that was step one. That doesn't get you the position. That doesn't even get you close. Step two is they ask if you were actually available for the times that they have. That happened on the way back from the dyno on Thursday. So I'm like, and they want ASAP. They want to let you know ASAP. They want you to know, let them know. So I pull over the road in the middle of the highway, and I'm like, yes, I absolutely want to do this strip joint thing. Absolutely. So I'm so pumped. And they're supposed to film, today is Sunday. They're supposed to film on Monday. So I'm like, please, God, please. You know, and I know God's like, how dare you, son? Psh, what's wrong with you? This violates one of my sins. How dare ye? But I was still thinking, man, come on. Anyway, this morning I get a text from that casting thing, and they're like, you're removed from your obligation. We won't be using you. They're cutting back scenes, and they need less extras. So I didn't get in any of the extra positions, and I didn't get that stripper one, and I was like, oh my gosh. This was a dream come true. I should point out today is also my wife and I's 23rd wedding anniversary. So when I told her at first, I mean, I'm like giddy like this telling her, and she's like, really, Eric? It's like, yes, because we have the celebrity clause. I don't know if your marriages have it. It's like if you're a celebrity, and then we set this up early, if a celebrity comes up to you and wants to, you have permission. So, like, Jessica Alba, hey, I know you're single. I could. And then hers was Christopher Walken. I'm joking. But let's say it was Hemsworth or anybody else, and I'd be okay with it. So, but anyway, the point of this whole thing is to say she thought whenever I first told her, like, he's got no chance. This is no chance he's going to get it. So she was happy for me. But then when it got to step two and they asked, like, if I was actually available that day in those hours, she was getting a little worried, but she still would have been okay with it. She's like, you'd really do that? It's like, yes, it's a dream come true. But no, this morning I got my kick in the dick. So, yeah, that's out. Dang. Yeah. So, do I want to be a movie star for the record? Absolutely not. So, like, if you said, well, is that your dream job? Is that what you want? No, I'm actually doing what I dream to do. So, this is maybe a little inspiration for you. If there's something for you or anybody that you really want to do, don't wait for someone else to give it to you or to hopefully luckily get it. Just go get it yourself. So like this business that I'm in now, that's how I did it. There wasn't anybody that gave me a handout for any of this. I just wanted to do it, and it took a long time, and here we are. So this is actually what I want to do. So this is my dream job. Although I wouldn't mind doing that just because I think it's fun. Would I want to do it every day? No way. But anyway, so that was that. So anyway, hopefully got some fun thing out of this. Now for the next stuff. So Thursday, I was on the dyno with the small block Ford. This is the 427 one. It's the same engine that was used from the camshaft challenge. That's that 427 with Kuntz's short block. It's got my Trick Flow high port heads that I ported on it, CNC ported. Chris Straub does a porting for that, but it's my port design. Anyway, ported intake and all that. I switched and put Tim Hillard's cam back in it because he wanted me to do some more testing, which is fine. And I thought, well, let's just test a bunch of different stuff. So, and you'll see these in future videos. You probably just saw that last one about the projected tip spark plugs. But I tested the bigger carburetor, the 1350 versus the 1050, and also tested 3 different carb spacers, timing, of course, and not only just timing, but the advance or retard of the cam. We tested that with his, and all that stuff was interesting and very helpful, I think. So that was fun. We were going to test the big block Ford, had some issues, but that will be back on. We'll get that on the dyno relatively soon. We're just waiting for a part to come in, and then that will get on the dyno, and that'll be another video, and that'll be kind of fun. That's a true street one. And by the way, the heads are on that big block Ford that we're going to dyno test. Those are the Pro Comp CNC ported heads, which if you go back and watch some of my videos, you can actually see all the flow numbers on all that too, which I'm not a Pro Comp fan, but if this thing makes it good on us, it'll be neat. So that's there too. Speaking of cam challenges, the small block Chevy cam challenge is coming up. Now, all the cams are supposed to be in by August 14th, which would be Friday, and the entry fees need to be paid. If you are already donated, you can click on that link and you'll see all the people whose cams are here and all the people who have paid. You have to have both paid and the cam here to be officially entered. So there are several that don't have cams here, because right now as it sits, there's only 10 or 11 cams that are actually here. So right now, that's it. If you want to see who those are donating the cam challenge, you're like, what do you mean? What's this cam challenge stuff? In the link, in the description for this video, there'll be a link so you can donate to the small block Chevy cam challenge. That money actually goes for the winnings and to pay for part of my time. What you'll get from that, though, is you get sent a link, and it has all the data from the cam challenge, the small block Chevy one. It will have, after this weekend, I should be able to upload all the photos for the cam cards. So you'll see all the cam cards. As the dyno competition is going on, I'll be uploading those dyno sheets in there as well. So you'll have all the stuff before waiting for me to do a video. Before you're one of these people, because I actually had this happen on several videos now, where you think, YouTube's free, everything's free on YouTube. You're charging people to see it. You don't listen to all my words and it shows. Every bit of the information, like the cam cards and stuff, they will make it onto a YouTube video that you can see for free, except you might have to make it through an ad from YouTube, which I have nothing to do with that, by the way, because even when I say no ads on stuff, like not monetizing a video, they will still show ads, which means they're just getting paid and I'm not getting anything. So I monetize everything because they're going to show ads regardless. But you get to see all that for free if you just make it through the ad. It'll be further on. All that stuff for the channel members and the people that donated, they get to see it instantly because they open the link and it's there and it auto fills. So you guys don't have to do anything besides keep clicking the link and it will automatically update on its own without you doing anything. So that's coming up. That should be really, really neat. The lifters came in from BAM, and I'm going to stop the video right here because I want to show something, because somebody mentioned something and I thought I'd bring this up because I actually talked to BAM about this. So hold on just a second. So these are the BAM lifters that will be used for the small block Chevy cam challenge. They were nice enough to donate these, so a big thank you out to BAM. They're a really great company anyway. And I have to say, as far as tech support goes for solid lifter companies, BAM by far is the best, because I guarantee, and I like Morell. Morell was nice enough to donate a set of lifters for the small block Ford cam challenge. But if you want to actually call and ask a technical question of Morell, first off, good luck finding their number, but you will not get their people. BAM, so I love Morell's products. Their solid rollers are pretty good. Do not like their hydraulics, I'm going to say that. But solid rollers are very nice, no problems at all. But their tech thing is an issue. BAM, on the other hand, they have a great product too, but I can talk to the guy who's the owner of BAM. Well, I think he might have, yeah. But I could talk to him and get any of the information. It's easy. He used to deal with everybody. It's not just a me thing because I'm a YouTube guy. I mean, he does it with a lot of people. So great person to deal with, and they're just good people to deal with. And Morell just has, which I get Morell's philosophy with it. They have a great product too on their solid roller design. But they are like, hey, we're the manufacturer. You guys, the distributors, you deal with the tech stuff. We just want to make the product. You guys deal with the tech. So the problem is then it feels more like you've got salesmen trying to sell you stuff instead of actually getting the actual technical stuff. And since they're not actually physically producing it, there's always some questions. So anyway, and I'm not knocking Morell. I'm just saying when it comes to BAM's customer service, it's great. Now, instantly you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought you said the small block Chevy was a hydraulic roller. It is, but I'm running solid rollers on it. And the reason for that is because to help with the valve float stuff. And also, there's nothing wrong with running a solid roller on a hydraulic roller lifter. Solid roller on a hydraulic roller cam. I just prefer it, actually. So, because to me, there's really only one good hydraulic roller company that makes good hydraulic rollers, and that's Johnson. Gatorman's, I've heard they're really good, but you can't get them. So really, there's just Johnson. And I've already talked kind of about Morell's. But anyway, so one of the questions, or somebody commented on the last time when I talked about BAM, and they brought up something. So I asked BAM, and they were nice enough to give the exact answer for that. So one of the things is, so here's our solid roller lifters. Hopefully you can see them on the camera all right and everything. As you can tell, these are small block Chevy, but there's a couple holes here. You got this little old hole right here, and then you've got this hole right here. Of course, you got your push rod. Now remember, I've got an offset on this one. It's on center on this one. Now, these are DLC inside here. If we take off this wheel and stuff, these are no needle bearings are in there. This is a bushing, but it's a steel bushing, and it's DLC coated. DLC stands for diamond-like coating, and that reduces friction. It's a very hard coating. It's great for that steel, and it prevents them pretty much from wearing out. Now, in the block that it's at, in the block where these lifters go, there's an oil gallery, or you could think of it just like a hole, and that hole is about right here, right, on the small block Chevy. So that oil from the gallery is actually feeding this little hole, which then oils the bushing in here and keeps it from having issues. But then you're like, well, what about your push rod, right? And you got this little hole here. But if your oil gallery is here, how is it getting oil up here, right? Well, one of the commenters said, I burned up my engine, or burned up my push rods. This was a comment. I burned up my push rods in less than 30 seconds using BAM lifters. I won't use them again. And so I copied that comment, and I sent it to BAM and asked them, is there any is there anything to this, or what do you want to say? Because I have BAMs in my S10, and like I said, I've got about 600-700 street miles on it, and I've raced it, not a ton, but I have raced it quite a bit, and no issues whatsoever. And I've had BAMs in the small block Chevy dyno mill that had over 256 dyno pulls. So I don't have issues necessarily. The matter of fact, the big block also has BAMs in them, no issues. So I was trying to figure out where that even came from and how would you burn them up. So I actually asked BAM, and BAM said this. You see that hole here? This hole leads to your push rod, which then feeds the oil up to your push rod, oils the rocker arms, that sort of thing. The way it gets its oil, it makes sense. This one on the side is fed by the oil gallery hole. This one, it's not near the oil gallery hole, but what happens is the lifter itself is inside the bore and it's sliding back and forth. There's a clearance between the bore of the block and the lifter. There's always oil going through there. So what happens is the oil from the clearance between your lifter bore will then go into this hole, and then it will come out of the push rod, and then it feeds the entire top end. 90% of the lifters, by the way, work this way. They're not always fed by the oil hole because it'd be very, very difficult. You'd have to have an oil passage that went all the way through here and all the way up. And see how it's a lightweight design? That's why they had this material moved from the center to get some of the mass out, because this spring has to control this too. So by having the oil come through here, you come through there, because honestly, you want oil lubricating the springs and stuff, keeping them cool and all that, so you need that. But as long as you have enough clearance on your lifter bore, this is never an issue, which is probably the reason why I've never had an issue on any of the motors using BAM with this style, because I didn't even know exactly how that they'd oiled that. And you're like, how did you not know? I know. One of the things you can do, because he mentioned this too, is you could actually just make a groove. And several lifter designs, you have to do this anyway because of where the oil passage is anyway. Because you can have a situation, not with these, sometimes they have the oil hole like really high up on the lifter. And you're like, so what's that mean? Well, if you have a large lift cam, there's a chance when the lifter comes off the lobe, that hole here will get out of the lifter bore area. So then it has no oil going through it whatsoever in part of its lift travel. That can happen, but not on these. These are so far down. I mean, you aren't going to have this problem with this particular lifter anyway. But on some block designs, depending on how far down that lifter bore is, that could be an issue. So what they do is you just make a little groove through here so that the oil has a passage to get always to that hole. And usually there are holes up here, so you make it from here up to the hole. It's a very simple modification. It's not a huge thing. Do you have to do it with these? No, I've never had to do that modification. Now, another thing I point out too is I don't really have those issues either, because whenever I'm putting in like lifters on even a new engine and stuff, I'll prime them. So the way I do it is I prime the engine. I make sure oil's coming through all the lifters and all the rocker arms. So I'm turning the engine, make sure there better be oil coming out of every single rocker, even if it's a little drip because you're just turning it with a drill. I better see oil, and I always do. As a matter of fact, I see way more. So for instance, and I'm not knocking Morell, Morell has another hole that's down here. So they have a little hole that's here so that the oil gallery feeds this, but also sprays oil on the cam, which sounds great, right? Because then you got more oil in the cam. Well, the problem with that is each one of those little holes is an oil leak. So that actually reduces your oil pressure, especially at idle. But it's not a bad thing. But what that means also is there's less pressure in the entire system. So usually you get less oil on the top side too, feeding your push rods and stuff. With the BAM stuff, at least from what I have seen, whenever I'm priming, I actually have way more oil flow up to the top, probably because it's not also losing some of the pressure throughout the bottom. So I always prime first, because if there's an issue, I want to catch it before I start it up so I don't burn up stuff. But anything can happen. So anyway, BAMs are good. Thought I'd share that little bit of information with you. But also something else came in for the small block Chevy Cam Challenge. I want to show you that because this is also fantastic. Let me show you that. The next big thing about the small block Chevy Cam Challenge is Torxtorm stepped up and really helped me out. They sent this whole entire kit. So I already have the 84 millimeter supercharger, and that's the one we're going to use for the Cam Challenge. But in this box, they sent me a spare one, which is great in case something happens to go wrong. I don't think anything's going to go wrong with the supercharger. But the biggest help was this. This is the bottom pulley. Okay, this is a cog drive. So if you order the Torxtorm supercharger kit, usually it comes with like a 10 rib belt. And they have a 12 rib option. I'm fairly certain of that as well. But I use the 10 rib on the truck on my S10 only because I really don't have room for the 12 anyway, because there's not much room between that and the radiator. But just the nature of ribbed belts with heat and everything else, they can slip. So Torxtorm has a great tensioner system that really prevents that from happening, or tries to. And I don't know that I had that slip at all on that Torxtorm ever. But I mean, maybe it could have happened, I just couldn't see it. But on a Cam Challenge, we don't really want to take a chance of that happening, because it would be unfair to somebody who ran later in the day, the belt's hot and it slips more, and maybe they don't make as much boost, they don't make as much power. To prevent all that, we have a cog drive. There's no slipping on this. For those that don't know what a cog drive is, every one of these grooves makes for a belt that looks like that. It's just like what the big superchargers run, like the Root style, and there's no slip. So guaranteed no slip. The downside, from what I've heard, is that using a cog drive versus a belt drive, actually the cog drive eats more power. Maybe I'll bring a cog drive setup too, so after we get done with the Cam Challenge, we could put on the cog drive setup and see how much power actually is lost between the cog drive and the 10 rib belt. That'd be interesting, I think. Time permitting, obviously, of course. But this is a huge help, and a big thanks to them to do that. They're a great company. So I like them with Torxtorm, good to deal with as well too. So yeah, this thing, I have every reason to believe will be over 1,000 horsepower. So he's got other pulley setups in here. For those that don't know, on that Cam Challenge, we're running an NA, and then we run it with about 5 pounds of boost and about 10 pounds of boost. I'm fairly certain with the 10-pound one will probably be over 1,000, I would imagine. Can it go more up? Yes. Because one of the things on that Cam Challenge, after it's done, Torxtorm said, can you try turning it up? And I said, yeah, we'll do that. So I'm probably going to see where it kind of maxes out as far as its boost on that supercharger, because it's still an 84 millimeter, which is, it's not huge, but it's not small either. So we'll see where that lands and everything, and see how much power we truly can get out of it as far as that goes. So that'll be fun too. Some of the other competitors, Summit being one, they've been a huge help in this whole process with the small block Chevy Cam Challenge for sure. Big thanks to Summit. The guys there have been great. I really needed to put up the banner, but I've barely been able to put up mine. I need to put up the Summit one. So apologies for that. However, some it's like, hey, when it's over, can you also turn it up? Because we want to see if our cam will actually go into valve float. Several of you are kind of worried about the valve float with the hydraulic roller stuff, but you got to remember, and this is a big thing, the small block Chevy has titanium intake and exhaust valves, and they're 5/16 stems. The intake valve weighs like 88 grams. That's pretty light. It's very, very light. Then it does use a beehive spring. So a beehive spring, it's got 180 pounds, I think, on the seat and something like 460 open. But remember, if you're using a traditional dual spring setup, typically that spring itself weighs more. Now you got to remember, some of the spring's force has to be used to control the mass of the spring itself. So if you have a beehive spring, one, the spring weighs considerably less than a dual spring. But the other thing is the retainer is dramatically less. So yes, this is a steel retainer, but I think the retainer weighs like 24 grams. So it's about 20 or so grams less than a titanium valve retainer anyway, that fits the bigger spring. So what I'm trying to say is, it's got a lighter valve train setup than what you're probably thinking. If I was to try doing this with say a 155 spring with 150 pounds on the seat with a steel retainer and a steel valve, yeah, we're going to go into valve float. This with the titanium valves, it may happen. I'm hoping that it doesn't, but those are pretty light. Just to give you an idea, an average LS valve weighs about 120 grams. So we're already 40 grams less than the LS valves. A small block Chevy valve typically weighs between 130 and 130 is on the high side, 140 sometimes you can get there. So it's still considerably less than that. Those are the more heavy valves, but typically like 130. So it's good 50 grams less than a steel valve. So I think everything will be okay, but we're going to see too, because superchargers also, the higher you can spin them, as long as you're within their efficiency ratios, the more power you're going to make. So, because typically you make more boost, the higher you spin it. Again, all related to efficiency. But so we should, if it goes to 7,000 or 7,200 and doesn't have valve float, we should be making some really good steam up there. Who knows, after it's over, maybe we'll switch and put on a solid roller spring, and then I think for that, at that point, it would be good to like probably 8,500 if I'm being honest. But anyway, who knows? This would be very interesting. But anyway, let's go on to some of the other stuff. This might be a little sales pitchy, going to warn you about, but I finally have a set of Dragon Slayers in stock, and all I have to do is assemble them. And they're my CNC ones, my 253 CNCs. This particular set, and I've only got one in stock, because they sell out fast. And that's the reason why I'm putting on this video, because by chance I'm lucky enough we actually have one. Not that I keep ordering them and I keep making them, but they're just selling quicker than I can produce them. But these don't require shaft rockers. They flow, this particular set, because I've already flowed it, it flows like 333. It flows 329 at 700. I'd like to say 330. On that bench, it's over 340 on the Superflow. Exhaust flows 250. These will come set up with the 800 lift solid roller spring, titanium retainers, but they have 67cc chambers, two 125 intake valve, one 575 exhaust valve. They're 11/32 stems on the valves. This particular set, remember, they don't require shaft rockers. It goes for $4,500, which is very expensive. But just to give you an idea, my costs on these, I don't make that much money on them. Not as much as you think for the price I'm charging. A lot of people make money on the heads, like the person that's cutting the head, that sells me the casting. I'm making some, but not like some of the rest. The guy I pay to port makes more on the heads than I do, and that's my design. So he's just running through the machine. But anyway, I've got one set in stock, so just letting you know. If you're interested, winegardnerracing@gmail.com. Let me know. You pay half down there and half when they're assembled. It'll probably take me about a week to assemble. I've got the springs in stock. Waiting on the retainers. Terry, Mr. Wilkes, need those retainers. Yeah, that's what those are. So these are really good head, and they make quite a bit of power. These are slightly different from Old Man's Garage. He has the ones that require shaft rockers. These don't. So you can just run stud mounts. So, but anyway, let me show you something else real quick too. That kind of goes along with these heads. It's not really a sales thing, but I want to share this with you. Do you guys remember this Circle Track engine? This is the 414 Circle Track engine. I dyno tested it, I don't know, a while ago. It's a small block Chevy. You might remember the story. I said that initially, whenever I first put this together, it made like $697. It got redone, and now it makes He said 652. We tested it and it makes 650. So it is down. Now, these actually had my hand ported. This before I was doing CNC ported head. They had my hand ported heads on it. These were the 242 cc version. They had a 210 intake valve, 1600 exhaust valve. Like I said, initially made 697. This is a Holley 300-110 that I ported on it. Right now, like I said, doesn't. So one of the thoughts, because I got tired of waiting, and I got tired of waiting, so I was going to try something with this. So let me just show you this. This is another set of my CNC heads. These are similar to the Dragon Slayer. As a matter of fact, this intake port is in the same one that's in the Dragon Slayer, but this is not a Dragon Slayer casting. This thing is beautiful. This is a Track 1 CNC casting. So this intake port comes out like magic on all of them. There's no spots I need to touch up. It looks beautiful, right? So I'd order this and had that done. But the problem with the Track 1 casting is this. See, it says T1 casting instead of DS225. The Dragon Slayer's exhaust port's raised up, so it's like here. So this is a totally different exhaust port on this one. It's actually a short one. The Dragon Slayers, like I said, they're raised up. So it's kind of a bummer on that because it's a shorter exhaust port. The exhaust ports don't flow as good. So like these flow 250 compared to the Dragon Slayers flowing, or sorry, Dragon Slayers flow 250, these flow 240. So about 10 CFM less. Anyway, by the way, if you want to know about this version requires shaft rockers, notice the push rod slot. The port's beautiful. This one, it's the same exact head, but this is for a different customer. That little bulge there is so I can run rocker studs. You don't have to run shaft mounts on this one. But you could tell, like this one hadn't been valve jobbed yet, but this thing's a thing of beauty. But I had these heads here because this was like my first set, and I was going to try putting them on my small block Chevy dyno mule. You guys might remember the 406 had a block failure. Well, Summit was nice enough to hook me up with the block, and Chris Straub's like, yeah, I can machine it. I sent it to him in April. Here we are in August. I still don't have back the block. So you're not the only ones waiting for stuff. Promise. He has the pistons and the lifters because all he had to do was fully machine the block and hone the lifters, of course, to size for the 904 lifters. Had it since April. And by the way, this is not a favor thing. This is I'm still getting charged thing. So it's a long wait. So because that's the reason why the small block Chevy hasn't been on the dyno to do any more further testing, which would be really great because I don't have my block. I'm still waiting. So hindsight's 2020. But these were supposed to go on it. However, because I was tired of waiting, I thought, you know what? Why don't I try this set on the Circle Track engine? So what I did yesterday is I took off the valve covers and I took off the rocker shafts because these are the same valve spacing. So this Dragon Slayer head and that Track 1 that I just showed you are the exact same valve spacing. I was hoping, great, I can just take off these shaft rockers and then I can use them on that head. Bummer deal. Those shaft rockers are on the Dragon Slayers. He'd bought the T&D Sportsman shafts. They're like a 250 offset. They would work with this one that doesn't require shaft rockers, but not mine. So like this one is the one that requires shaft rockers. It would not clear. So I'm like, crap. Because I really was like, you know what? Yes, I know this is a much larger head, but I really want to see what it would do on the Circle Track engine. Because I had another thought on this deal too. If this head makes more power and torque, even though it's larger at the lower RPMs, it's still better for a Circle Track thing because you have more RPMs, more torque at the lower RPMs. It's still better. But I needed to test it. The other thing I had a crazy thought on was, because a lot of people say this, and I respect it. On a Circle Track stuff and even cars, you're like, what about part throttle performance? Well, that's really hard to test on the dyno because you'd have to have a throttle position sensor. Some carburetors have them, some don't. You have to record it. But then I had another thought. Part throttle is just limiting the CFM of the carburetor, right? Because obviously the blades aren't open 100%, so you're not flowing as much air. Why don't I just test with like a 500 CFM two-barrel carburetor, a 750, and then a 1000 CFM carburetor? Those would be like it's similar to having it half open, 3/4, and full open throttle, I would think. If the horsepower and torque numbers are dramatically lower with the 500 CFM versus the 1000 CFM, that would tell me maybe it would tell me some inclination of how it would be responding with part throttle. Maybe my thinking is wrong. You can put that in the comments. But I'm really thinking about doing that. So I was going to put these heads on that engine. However, I need to get a set of shaft rockers. So The shaft rockers are easy available too. They're a Jessel Sportsman's, so they're not cheap. They're like $1,500, but they have to have the 300 offset. Jessel makes those in the Sportsman's. So maybe I'll get another set. I actually have a set. The bad side is it's on my blow up motor. So that 350 with the supercharger, we were trying to blow it up. Actually had the Torxtorm on it, and it didn't blow up. It made over 1,000 something horsepower, but that shaft rocker is sitting there, which is too bad because I really could use them for this circle track engine. Then I could test this. I also have the adapters done. So this does not, the downside with the track one casting, that's another disadvantage compared to the Dragon Slayer. You can't put the stall pattern. You could on this one. So like, obviously you could see that because there's room here, but not on this one because it doesn't come up all the way. And I can't remember if it's this side or that side, but it's almost at the end here and you can't get the bolt through. So you kind of have to use adapters. On a Dragon Slayer, I can have them drill and tap. So you'd have both patterns. You'd have the standard and you'd have the stall and it'd fit in the casting, not on the track one. So instead I'm gonna use these adapters that I made and try it out on that head. So I need to get cash to get another set of shaft rockers because I'm a Jessel dealer, but they don't cut any brakes for me. Speaking of which, I also asked them this question. I called them up this week because I had to order a couple sets of shaft rockers for some other customers, and asked them if they could make me a steel rocker because they have a Sportsman steel that I could use for the camshaft challenge on the exhaust side because there's at least one camshaft. I'm like, man, you're opening it underneath a lot of pressure, and although the aluminum rocker is more likely going to take it no problem, I'd feel better if I had a steel on the exhaust. So they're doing some failure analysis to see how it would work out. But just the steel shaft, just the steel rockers for only the exhaust is over $1,000. Just those rockers, not the shafts, just the rockers. And I ordered extra shafts, by the way, so we don't have what happened with the small block Ford. But anyway, so further notice on that. But I just need more money to get the shafts. Then I could throw that on this. And the big thing about having that on there is then I could take off those heads and see what they did to cause it to lose 40-something horsepower. That's the biggest thing because the camshaft doesn't look crazy different, but something's up between the heads. Maybe the piston's dramatically different. I need to see. So, but regardless, I can then take off the heads, put the other heads on, see if it makes any difference. Test with a 500 CFM 2-barrel. Also, the other circle track intake I showed you last time too. A lot of stuff I want to get done with that. But anyway, there's that. Let's go on to some other stuff. There's a couple things I'm going to end with. First off, I've got the small block Ford from the Cam Challenge back here in the shop. I plan to go take it and dyno at some other places just to see what the differences are. All those dyno tests that I did on Thursday, I dropped them in the link for the channel membership. So if you have that, they're there. Before you're like, oh, I got to pay again. Again, they'll make future videos. We'll have all that information anyway. So you don't have to worry about paying. You got to listen though. Anyway, I'm going to try to take it at different places to get dyno tested. But I will be down there on Saturday anyway, because this is huge for me. It's a life-changing moment. Besides almost getting to my dream job, this really is, it's pretty big. On Saturday, I will be moving my son into college at Henderson State in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. So it's a huge thing, right? So I only have one kid. It's just Bishop. As many of you know, you've followed along as the videos have gone through in time. Man, he's the best thing I ever did, I'll tell you that. So if you think about it, for 18 years, he's been with me almost like every day almost, you know? And now it's like, and I know, what I'm trying to say is this is getting hard. It's really hard. I know I am going to cry, and you're like, what a wimp. Man, 18 years from, you know, nothing to that. Yeah, and I also know he will be changing faster than I'll be seeing with my eyes, which is fine. It's what he's supposed to do. But it's just a huge life change. You go from having someone that's with you for 18 years to just you and your wife again. So hopefully she can stand me, you know what I mean? So that's a challenge for her. So I'm probably going to work more in the shop, if I'm being honest, a lot more. I got to pay for his college anyway, but yeah, that's a huge, huge deal. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he'll do in college. Hope everything goes fine. He's trying to be a mechanical engineer, which also makes me nervous because he does struggle sometimes with math. But they have free tutors there at Henderson State, so that should help them out a lot. And I will try to go down there when I can anyway, one, to watch them swim, but also I've tried to make a good relationship with Kuntz so that I can go down there and do some testing as well, so, I can stop by and see my son. Kuntz is great people anyway, great people. So hopefully Bishop sounds like he wants to try working there, and I hope he does, because I think he would learn a lot about engines, and it would help him, I think, with the mechanical engineering side too. So that's a pretty big deal. Yeah. My wife for sure, she's going to be crying. Shoot, I cry all the time. I was crying at the Fantastic Four movie. By the way, that movie sucked. Don't go buy the ticket. It sucked. 2 action scenes in the whole movie, and you spent $200 million. I don't know what you spent it on. It wasn't action. But anyway, like the baby was crying. I was like, oh my gosh, it looked kind of like Bishop. I was like, oh crap. Anyway. That wraps that up. I just want to have one little random rant here at the end, if you don't mind. This is nothing to do with anything, well, kind of nothing to do with performance stuff. If you just indulge me, you can listen to this random rant because I had this crazy thought happens. Because what happens is I've been grinding away on intake manifolds like crazy. Unfortunately, I'm not getting very much done because I'm grinding as much, but it seems like it's taking forever. I switched to new burrs, just trying to make it cut faster, but I don't know what it is. And it's the Elderbrock intake, some of them grind easier than others. This one has taken forever, and I still have several more to go. I'm really far behind on that. But anyway, when I'm doing that, my mind just drifts, and I had this random thought, so I thought I'd share that as a random rant per se. So if you don't want to hear it, I get it, but I just had this crazy thought, and let me try to run it with you if you don't mind, because it does kind of affect the YouTube content that I'm doing right now too, if you don't mind. So, and it has to do with AI. So here we go. I think AI is really going to change a lot of things, but I think it's, obviously, I don't know that it's going to make things better. The one good thing I could say from AI that's happened so far that I know of is I have Sirius XM on my truck, and every year I got to do the same BS. They're gonna try to renew me, and they're like, now it's $24 a month. And I have to call them like, look, I'm not paying more than $100 a year. If you can't do it, I'm going to cancel, which is true. And I'll just get a Spotify, and I'll just do that and just plug it in like Bishop does on his car. And every year they're like, okay, we can do it. Would $7.99 a month work? And like, yeah, that'll be fine then. Thank you. Every year I have to do that. I have to talk to some representative every time. Usually they're in India. This time it was an AI person that answered, and I did the same thing, which I was surprised it even worked because, the old automated system sucked. And they're like, did it instantly and was done. And I was like, wow, AI improved that. But then I thought, think of all those people in India now that are like, where the call reps are no longer needed. I don't think they were getting paid all that much, but there had to be probably thousands of them that had jobs there. So I'm like, AI just killed all those jobs, but it was kind of better for me. But it really killed all those jobs. Now, those aren't necessarily American jobs. I think the AI stuff's great over here. So maybe that helps out a little bit. But that's not even what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is because I do spend entirely too much time when I'm sitting down on Instagram. My son got me addicted to the reels, and I will just flip through reels, and yeah. It's a rare day when it just gives me nothing but bangers of good comedy ones. Instead, I keep getting political, maybe one funny one. Hate that. So anyway, every now and then I have to search for something on Instagram. So I'll click on that little, magnifying glass. And then instantly when it pops up, it's always usually girls that are half dressed. They're dressed, obviously, they're not naked, but they're showing their attributes, I should say. And I don't know, it must be like the algorithm says you're male and you're 46 and you like cars. You must like boobies, which I do. But also I'm like, does every guy search that? But anyway, it's always been that way, no matter what. Like from the day one when I got it, I'd search because I was trying to find people and then my friends, so you could follow them. Boobies of girls and booties and things like that, right? Always have been there. Well, this week I was searching for something, and I noticed I was like, they're all the same thing, except for I was like, something's a little off. So I'm clicking on them. I'm like, oh my gosh. the most of it, so like 70% of those pictures, so it's like of those pictures, they were all AI girls. They weren't real women at all. So I know as I'm watching through Reels, I'll keep getting these ads like, I can be your AI girlfriend. Would you like me to look like your coworker or your ex-wife? I can do that. I can do anything you want. And by the way, it's not like I'm searching for those. They just appear. Sorry for the interruption, wife. Just kidding, she's great. But anyway, so it's like you have all these AI things constantly. And then it's hitting me, I'm like, wait a minute. Now, obviously, I'm older. I just turned 46. But I'm like, oh my gosh. You women are screwed. You're absolutely screwed. Because, and then I'm thinking also, oh, guys, oh my gosh, this changes everything. And you're thinking, what are you even talking about? Because I look at my analytics, by the way, before you're thinking. I looked at the analytics. There's no one underneath 24 that looks at my videos. Even when they were LS stuff, I had like 7 people, because it has the range between 18 and 24. 7. And those had like 7,000 views on that total views. 7 of them were between 18 and 24. So they're watching Instagram, which means they're seeing it way more than the other stuff. But I thought, women, or you're screwed. You're screwed, okay? And then guys, it's kind of changing things. Because let me just put it to you this way. If you think of these girls that have like millions of followers on Instagram, and even on YouTube, the car content ones, and not all, don't get me wrong, yes, brains and all that. But let's face it, some of these content creators, if they were ugly, they would have not even a half, not even a quarter of the followers that they have. So especially on Instagram, they were like just girls just walking around with their tight pants or just jiggling the boobs, whatever. The AI girls are better than you because they can be anything the guy wants it to be. They don't have imperfections. They're always perfect. And they can be whatever, a tan redhead. Good luck finding that one. Anything, big booty, big breasts, whatever. So I thought, oh my gosh, you girls really are screwed because, and I know it sounds totally sexist, but how many female influencers on TikTok or even Instagram or even YouTube really are only infamous because of their looks? And I know that sounds wrong, but it's the truth and no one just saying it. And I'm saying it out loud. You're famous because of how good looking you are. But the AI girls are better. And they'll do it more things that some people won't. And I'm like, wow, that changes everything. Wow. Seriously. So think about because we've all heard of OnlyFans. If you haven't, then you're in my other analytic group, which is like 85 to 99-year-olds. I have more of those that watch than the 24-year-olds. But an OnlyFans is a way for women, so I guess some guys do it too, to make money, and they sell subscriptions, so you pay so much per month, and then they watch, and typically they take off their clothes, okay, and then they do stuff that naked. Have I ever been on OnlyFans? No. I just know how it works, and then they make like a lot of money, and they don't even have to necessarily be attractive. There's this, I watch on YouTube Soft White Underbelly, and there's this, she's like 78 and she's large, and she's making like, I think she said $26,000 a month was her first month, and month 2 she made like $175,000. Not what I'm into, but what I'm trying to get at is, with the AI thing, you can make whatever girl you want. So all the real girls that are trying, I think AI is going to wipe that out. Like, I think it's going to be the biggest game changer for that segment for sure. Because you can literally have them, because also there's no filters. You can actually literally make them do any act. At least that's what it portrays. I haven't tried, nor do I want to. I'm not going to open that Pandora's box. But anything. Game changer. So I thought, well, that's going to wipe out stuff. But then, so I was like, that's huge for women. But I think also like, well, what about my son, right? Or maybe he's got a great girlfriend, but what if in the future he has a girl he sees in the class, or maybe he's got a friend, or even guys his age, they see someone in class that would never talk to them. Take a picture of their face, they create the AI girlfriend, then they got the AI girlfriend. Now, do they get to meet him in person and touch him in person? No, none of that. But, I mean, it's still quite a bit. You get what I'm saying? Now, it gets worse. So I know I'm going on a little bit long here. I'm starting to see it more on YouTube stuff, but not girls showing stuff or anything like that. It's AI right now is trying to create content itself from other content. So I was watching YouTube. I just watch YouTube at nights before I go off to sleep. I really don't watch much network television. I don't watch any network television, but sometimes I'll watch like Hulu or Netflix or something like that. But anyway, when I'm scrolling through YouTube and getting recommended videos, this one came up and I was like, it had a 383 versus 400 small block Chevy. And I was like, it had 96,000 views. And I thought, wait a minute, I don't even get that many views. And I'm actually dyno testing. So this guy that I have never heard of is doing these comparisons. I want to see what this is and how he's getting 96,000 views, because I can do banger videos, right? Like the cam challenge had maybe 7,000, 8,000, even on the LS, right? No 96,000, not even close. And I'm like, 96,000 is approaching what Steve Morris gets on some videos. So I'm like, how is this guy doing it? I got to see this, right? I click on it. The guy's got 9,000 subscribers, so that's less than me. But it's not a guy, it's AI. The AI grabbed pictures of engines off the internet, and then it put in the voice, and you could always tell it was AI because a person would say 383, not 383. It was all AI generated, and it was just grabbed pictures, and it had 96,000 views because it also created that thumbnail. Well, every time that happens, it kind of takes away from actual real content like what I'm creating. So I was like, crap, that sucks. Can't do anything about it because the algorithm will keep recommending it because that thumbnail will keep getting it, and because it's AI generated, it knows how to help the algorithm do it because it knows it's a computer, so it could figure out an algorithm to figure out the algorithm for YouTube to get recommended more and reduces us. Which I'm like, that sucks. I almost think YouTube, which it asks whenever you put out a video, is this AI generated? And I always say no, but I think they should always have some little icon up in a corner anyway to let it know that this is partially created by AI. Like it should have AI up in the corner if it was used to make any portion of the video. I think it should. 100%. So this way people would know. Because and that wasn't just that video, it's like tons of them. Like I would look up random things. I get interested in weird stuff. Like it could be about different diseases, like the mosquitoes and how they're killing people and how we're trying to eliminate mosquitoes. It was AI generated, talking about random facts about mosquitoes that it just grabbed through there. Somebody's making money off the people clicking on that, even though they didn't really create it, AI did. And I was like, wow. And then this morning, I had another one, and that's when we want to do this at the end. So right before this, I thought, you know what, I'm going to look through my videos, checking out my dashboard, and then see if there's some comments I missed. Well, I was on my computer when I did it, and at the top they have, I think it's inspirations, what they call it. So I clicked on inspiration, and it's AI generates inspirational ideas for you to do for next year, my next videos, what I should do. And the very first one is a banger of a title, and that's why I clicked on it thinking, did someone already do this? And it was Head Porter Challenge. How would a novice do versus an experienced professional at head porting dyno challenge? And I was like, someone did that? No. It used all my comments and said, this is the video you should make because it looks like the people that watch your videos would really love to see that. I was like, wow. By the way, that one does sound interesting, and let me just for a second tell you why I haven't done that. Because several of you have asked, how come you don't have you versus other head porters doing a challenge? Oh, easy one to answer. If you said, hey, we're going to take this head, and I'm going to give it to 5 different head porters. You're all going to port it, and then we're going to test it on the dyno. It's not a fair test. And you're like, what? Why? It's 5 different people. you're not testing how good the head porter is. You're testing how much they could change a head. And you're like, what do you mean? If you handed me this head right here, this 23-degree head, this is my track one, but the Dragon Slayer port, and you said, we're going to put this on an engine, we're going to test it. I'm like, all right, you know what I'm going to do? Knock out these guides. I'm going to put an aluminum slug where the guide used to be. I'm going to move the valves over to some different location so it's way away from the bore so I can put a gigantic valve in. I'm actually going to rotate it, so forget the wedge. I'm going to turn it this way so I can get more airflow as well and more cross flow. Actually, it's this way. And then I'm going to, you know what? I'm change the spark plug design location. I'm going to intake port. Shoot, I'm going to raise that up. I'm going to weld right here. I'm going to bring all this up. By the end, this casting was not the casting that it started off with. What you're thinking whenever people have these head porting challenges, you'll just take this casting and you'll just port it. And the other guy will just port it. They won't move and do all the stuff you said. We don't work that way. And you're like, yeah, everybody could do that. You could just check it. Some of the times the stuff we do is so hidden, you wouldn't even know that that happened. You're like, no, we'd see the welding. I have had Brodex change valve spacing on heads just for those reasons. And it even says it's legal. It'll be like DS-225. It's not the same as the one you'd get. There'd be so many things that could alter. So once you put it on the mule also, or on whatever dyno you'd want to, someone else would have to have a different set of pistons, a different set of rockers. And at that point, is the piston design, rocker design. So the problem with doing a head challenge like that is, again, it's not how good the head port was. It's really how much ability do you have to change the head, not just the intake port. So again, I could try to do that, but you'd have to be so restrictive. And then it ends up being like a huge, like almost legal battle with everybody on what rules they can and cannot do. Or what did I not think of that they did that I didn't say that they could do, but other people didn't think to do that. It's a battle. It's not just taking a similar head and you just port it right through here and then they port it right through here and then we're done. It just doesn't work that way. But it'd make for a great video, right? And that's the reason why I recommended it. You want to guess what number 2 recommended thing was? And remember, this is AI looking through all of the video algorithms and saying, what do you think's best? Junkyard swap an LS into a vehicle. That was number 2. The third one was another thing with an LS. So if you're wondering why there's so much LS views, because the inspiration, which means the algorithm looked at all the videos and how much people showed an interest in all those, and LS keeps winning. Not small block Chevy, definitely not Ford. Learned my lesson on that one. So, you get what I'm saying? That's a long rant for the AI stuff to tell you, man, it is really changing things. At this point, I don't know what it's good for. I mean, besides being a better call center, I don't see anybody keeping jobs. The people that keep the jobs will still be the ones digging ditches, because there ain't no AI going to change that. Some manual labor stuff that's super hard to do. Yeah. So, I don't know. We invest so much in that, like even the data centers and stuff. I feel really bad, though, and the female influencers selling yoga pants, I think you're screwed. They're going to have better pants on AI. Sorry. In a way, it might be better for society because things can kind of return to almost normal. And it sounds so sexist when I say that because I'm sure someone's going to steal this little clip and make me look like a jerk. But I'm not trying to be. I'm not being that way. But you cannot tell me that some of the reason you get your views isn't to do with your looks. Okay? It's just not. I think you're lying to yourself if you say that. I mean, how many truly ugly women car videos have you seen that have millions of views? Just give me one. There's ugly guy videos that do that all the time. Uncle Tony, I'm talking about you. He's got hundreds of thousands of views. But because it's the knowledge for them. And I know I sound like a piece of crap saying that, but I don't know. It's what I see. And not that they're not talented, because there was actually one I saw today and I felt really bad for her. She actually has a mechanical engineering degree, so one, that's hard. She is learning to be a pilot, and something else. But she went to this air show and she got fired from it. She said, now listen to me, I said all those qualifications, so clearly she's qualified, right? Clearly. She got fired, and she was really popular on Instagram, I guess. I don't know. I'm not into that scene, so I don't know how popular it is. But really, really, really popular on the aerospace stuff, whatever. Really popular. Probably has other kids looking up to her and all that. But she was wearing shorts, skirts, like I guess that the golf women play in. I don't play golf, but I get that they're short. And she was wearing a top, but she says the only thing I did different from the other influencers there is I wasn't wearing a bra. You're really, really talented, but why didn't you? I mean, so anyway, she gets fired from that position. Was like, I kept thinking, why? Why did you not? Like, I really would like to know a real reason. You can't, and if in the back of your mind is like, I did it because it gets more attention, and then if it gets more attention, more people pay attention, then I grow my brand. Cool, cool. That also means you value your looks more than your intelligence. But I did feel bad for her because at least she's qualified. There are several others where they play the ditzy girl that looks good. You know, I know you've seen those videos. I feel like I just dug myself a deep grave on this one. Sometimes you got to dig out the backhoe so you can dig that hole just a little deeper. It's usually like when I get in an argument with my wife, you know, I feel like I dug a hole, but I don't think I can get my whole body in it yet. Let's just keep going. Anyway, yeah, I rambled long enough. This point I'm trying to make is I think AI is going to change a lot of stuff, especially on this content stuff, because I don't even know if my videos would be recommended as much because of the AI. Will that hurt me? The business doesn't relate. I don't make money on YouTube, although it does help the traffic come in for jobs. And they can't contact an AI company and say, hey, can you port my heads? They can contact real people. Anyway, looks like I'm getting a lot of emails as I'm talking. This video is probably long. I'm going to put it out today. I bet you most of you don't even make it to the end of this video too, because no one's got that attention span. So anyway, I need to finish this intake. What's on my agenda today? I'm just going to say it out loud. It's Sunday. I'm going to finish porting this intake, this 2902 for an engine building customer. I've got to get that done. I think after that, I need to pull out this other intake manifold for my Ford customer that I'm really behind on. I also have to port the cylinder heads for that too. And the bad part is I finally got back my model head from Chris Straub, so I can actually see if the model will actually fit into his head. So then I could just send it out to be CNC ported instead of hand porting it, because that'll take longer. There's a set of TrickFlow 280 ports I need to do some mild porting on. I need to start on those. Doug Thacker, if you're watching this, your head's got valve job yesterday, which means I need to start grinding on those. Because I've got bad ADD, I tried to start at least 3 different jobs at once. Partly because if the parts don't show up for one job, you still got the other job getting ready to process to get through. So that's what's coming up. As far as dyno stuff, like I said, moving Bishop in on Saturday. Maybe we'll dyno at not Dunsworth, but at Kuntz with a small block Ford. But if not, it's going on a road trip. I'm going to try some different places. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I probably should leave off this AI thing, but I think I'll just leave it in. Tell me what you think. You know, maybe I'm not clearly out in left field, because I'm not a boomer. No offense to boomers, but anyway, I hope people don't take it too harsh. Although it kind of is. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, tell me what you think. I'm no Superman. I did race Superboy. I don't port cast iron heads. I'm also an idiot on a lot of stuff. You guys take care.